Yo, what's up? Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Let's Keep Talking. Today I am visited by, it's like an old person in a nursing home. I'm visited by Amy Douglas.
Hi.
Amy Douglas has been on the podcast before. We had a fantastic conversation about relationships. Maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I think, which was a really awesome episode. I don't know off the top of my head what episode it was. I think it was 17 or 19. So if relationships is piquing your interest at the moment, you might enjoy that episode. But she rejoins me today because we had a really cool conversation 2 days ago about how life changes as you get older. What's funny?
It was a week ago.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was like, this is a conversation we had yesterday, right? She's like, no, this is a week ago. About the interesting dilemma that we find ourselves at as I'm 25 years old. How are you?
25.
25. Where now life seems to be like multifaceted, where we're moving into the rest of our lives, but there's also a degree of like at which we've got all this stuff that has happened in the last decade since we were like freshmen, sophomores in high school. And it seems to be that a large part of like doing life well is starting to be caring for both of those avenues of like looking forward and also going like, how do I make sense of what's happened in the past and how do I label that and how important that is? If you have anywhere particular you want to start, if not, we could start with the job scenario.
Yeah,
Because that seemed to be cool. Yeah, so maybe let's start back with that part. What's been your feeling with your job currently? You work at the gym. I love having you here at the gym. It's super awesome, but
Thanks.
maybe that's starting to come to a close, you feel, potentially?
Yeah. So I've been like dwindling in clients for a while. And like when I started, like we talked about, the business model was just different. And that's no one's fault or no one's problem or anything. It was just is what it is. And I made the most money here when I first started in the first like 6 months.
Lots
and
of money, man.
I was like rolling in it.
I was happy.
Yeah.
Money does make you happy.
happy.
I was so happy I was making so much money.
I was making a lot of money, more money than I've ever made doing anything else. But I was also in a different
Sheds a tear.
part of my, I've cried about it already. I was in a different part of my life too, though. I was living with my mom and I had a lot less bills, and I'm just in a totally different spot. But besides that, just like my clients themselves, I've been like dwindling for a while. So I called it like a down spell or like a negative period for a while, but I don't think I don't think it's that anymore. I think it's just done. And we had a meeting as a team, like that kind of solidified that the parts of the job that I would have to do in order to gain my own clients aren't things that I particularly want to do. And that was like a really hard conclusion to come to.
Yeah.
Because the back and forth that I always had was that I don't want to quit just because it's hard, or I don't want to quit because I could get my clients back, you know?
Yeah.
But I had to kind of sit down with myself like multiple times and say, I'm not quitting. I'm just realizing that this isn't what I want to do. Like,
I think that that point is such an interesting insight, because when you're growing up, and we talked about this the other day, when you're growing up, you're in an interesting state of receiving. You're getting a family, you're getting a mom, you're getting a brother, you're getting a best friend that loves playing basketball with you, you're getting even your memories, like you're a memory virgin, you know, like you're making your first memory of playing Tony Hawk on PlayStation. Like it's what? You're getting all these things, you're getting friends, you're getting interest. And then like towards the end of grade school, you know, higher level education, like somewhere around the 20s and 25s, people are experiencing their first true heartbreak between a relationship, or they lose a close friend or a family member. And I know that was something that you had experienced too. Or they don't know what to do after playing basketball for 15 years of their life, and now it looks like like they could work really hard and try to get to D1 or try to get to a professional sports league, but like they're not feeling like that maybe is right. And I think the first interesting lesson that we could like observe together about this is that exact phrase. I felt like I was giving up, and that was challenging. What did you like? What feelings did you have as you began to feel like maybe this is the end of this road for me? And why immediately was it like, oh, fuck, no, we don't give up. We can't give up. Like, no way. And that postponed you even making that decision.
Yeah. I just never want to feel like I'm walking away from something because it's hard. Like, everybody can do hard things. It's just a matter of if that hard thing is worth doing. Like, do you want to actually do that? And I love training. I love my clients. I love this gym. I love training people, and I love the way that it makes them feel. And I love everything about it, but I'm not a salesperson.
And it's a lot of sales when you're running your own business.
It's a lot. And when your business model shifted and it's more catered towards that, which is great for you. And that's another part of the conversation that we had, is that like that was necessary and needed to happen. And just because that doesn't fit with me anymore doesn't mean that you should not do that, you know? Yeah. So I never wanted to like walk away from it just because it was difficult. And then when I came to the realization that like, I think the truth is that I'm not comfortable with putting myself out there and needing the validation from people to say like, oh yeah, she looks good, I want to train with her. Yeah. That's where my mind goes.
It's a lot of pressure.
It ends up not being very healthy for me. And so I had to sort of realize that like, I'm not quitting because it's hard. I'm walking away from it because this is not something that's going to benefit me in the long run.
But that's where it's like, nah, you just quitting. You know what I'm saying? Like in your mind, it's like so challenging to honor yourself. Like it's so challenging to know that I have the heart of someone who wants to make the most of opportunities. And sometimes that means doing really challenging things. Matter of fact, most of it usually means doing really challenging things. And I don't believe that giving up is a good value. I don't value quitting early. It's not like one of my platitudes I post on the wall. I value sticking it out. I value investing in the future and delayed gratification, those kind of things. But I also value honoring how I feel inside. And that's tough to rescue. Yeah. It's tough to separate those two, because like even doing the gym stuff, like you know this firsthand because we spend a good bit of time talking about what's going on with the gym and stuff, is like one of the hardest things for me to do to transition in this stage of life from doing fitness stuff into doing YouTube, podcast. It's like I feel like I have to make the gym successful still, or I'm giving up. And that is like it's like a ball and chain, man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. And I never want to just, I don't know, you look at your situation and I just don't want to be labeled as a quitter either. Like I know that I'm not walking away from it. I'm not just quitting because it's hard, but I don't want other people in my life to think that I'm quitting.
How do you deal with it?
And talk about it. That's something that I wouldn't have done before.
I hop on local podcasts and try to share my story as much as I can.
Like this podcast.
This podcast is actually my therapy.
Because I can't afford therapy right
now. Can I be on your podcast again? Oh, that's funny.
But no, really, like that was part of it though, is that, and first I had to realize it myself that I'm just following what I actually want to do right now. And then the other part of it was like, once I was comfortable with that, I had to talk to the people in my life that mean something to me and their opinion means something, and clarify that with the people that I care about, which was why our conversation was important last week. And my conversations with Shane have been really important about, Lauren actually said this, and this is exactly how I feel like in my head. I could do what I need to do to make this successful. I can do it. I know what to do. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And that's just...
That is the sauce right there.
Yeah.
If you are in a situation where you feel like being true to how you feel would equal your public failure, sit with that and reflect that I could do all the things required of me to reach this level. And me changing courses is not because I found out that my skills are inadequate or that I don't have the potential to reach where I want to be. It's that I see that I have a finite amount of time in life and that I'm not going to spend it trying to cultivate a skill that would just impress other people when I have moved on.
And being at a different part of my life now is like, what I crave more than that is stability and like something that's just going to be there every week without having to think about it. I don't, something that I don't have to stand on top of and make sure that everything is like solid all the time and just.
It's so challenging to not feel, it's so challenging to not feel like you're giving up.
Yeah.
It's so challenging not to.
And it's a huge pride thing, like very big pride thing. Cause now that I'm like looking at other jobs and what's out there and stuff, and I have a degree in that, but I don't use it. And I don't particularly want to do what I have my degree in. And so I'm looking at all these jobs and they're like, kind of anybody can just walk in off the street and get it. And that used to bother me. But the other thing I had to overcome was like, who cares? Who cares that anyone else could get it? Honestly, I've seen my pay stubs. I'm going to make more money doing something else right now, anything else.
She would make more money doing anything else. There was a guy on
truly anything else.
My school bus when I was in 3rd grade that would sell Airheads. He would make more money than you've been making.
I should get in on that.
And it's a good business right now.
Yeah, it's just, it's frustrating, but it is what it is. Like, you have to put your pride aside and be like, I just need something stable. And now I'm at a point where I'm comfortable with that. Like, I don't need my job to be the most meaningful part of my life, which is what this was for me. This was so meaningful to me, and this carried so much weight in how I felt about myself being successful, because I was doing something that I felt like mattered to other people. And now I feel like my close circle of people is what matters to me most, like Shane and the boys and my mom and, you know, my friends, and that's what I want to focus on now. So my actual job doesn't really matter to me.
That's kind of interesting. You almost pivot from going like, I want to look a certain way to like your sphere of audiences strings. I want to look good to my followers. I want to look to the people that I went to high school with. I want to look good to people that I met recently and make sure it look like I'm winning. And one way to do that is to like be my own boss and like be like a really cool, unique job and like have like barriers to entry to where I am. And that feels really good. It feels good to have a job and have a position that people can't achieve.
Right. It's
valuable. You're like, you then associate your position with that job as being high value with you being of high value. You're like, I'm the fucking man. I mean, I got XYZ going on. What am I going to do? Go from having that was the challenging thing with the gym, is like the gym is interesting because no matter how the gym's doing, people still see me as successful. They're like, oh, you have the gym. Whether I made $50,000 this month or I lost $5,000.
Yeah.
My feeling of success to people is still the same.
Yeah.
And that's challenging because I've known the financial situation of the gym for the last year and a half, and I've gone like, I'm not really making a lot of money from this gym. It's more so like a good indicator for me to move on and put my passion into something else and to re-update what I spend my time doing. But man, I have not wanted to lose that stamp of public approval from people.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm still glad I have the gym because it still feels good in public, you know, and people are like, oh, you got the gym. You're like, yeah, I got the gym, but I don't work there. You know, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It just kind of does. You know, but it's like that's the exact same feeling.
Yeah.
You know?
I loved that for a long time, like, because working out has been important to me for a long time. But then when my actual job was surrounded, you know, around that, like, it was really cool that I could tell people, oh, I'm a personal trainer. And they're like, oh, yeah, you work out a lot, you know, like, that's great for you.
So cool.
And it's like validating in a way. But I don't really care about that anymore. But it was cool while it lasted, like to have that be a part of like what people define you as.
Yeah.
But again, just letting that part of it go.
Well, kudos to you for that.
Thanks.
Really, because that is awesome, and that's you prioritizing your well-being and your unique situation that is Amy Douglas's life right now and what she needs above what you self-inflict is the status quo for yourself. And that is like in a microcosm for anybody listening to that. That is the formula for peace, the formula for well-being, is doing exactly what you just did. Let's talk about death.
Oh, yay. That's my favorite.
There's no other way to segue into that. You're like, so I know this guy, he died the other day, and it got me thinking.
You picked a good week to talk to me about this.
Did I? Because it is your dad's, how many years?
4.
4 years.
On Thanksgiving Day this year.
Thanksgiving.
Oh, I'm going to cry already. Well,
I think this is a really good example. And take as much time as you need, babe.
Okay.
This is on Thanksgiving will be the 4-year anniversary of the passing of Amy's father. And the other day we were talking, and she was sharing the difficulty of this interesting, rich feeling of a lot of sadness and also a lot of gratitude. And
it's beautiful. Like, when you lose somebody that close to you, I think it either destroys you or it changes the way that you see the rest of your life in like the most beautiful way. There's always like a hole, like a gap, you know? But you see life so differently, and you take in these things that you probably wouldn't have noticed before, because everything has so much meaning and so much beauty behind it. And like the person that you lost them in the way that you knew them before, in their like physical presence and, you know, their support and their voice and their touch and their hug. You lost them in all of those ways, but you get this chance to rediscover them in everything, like flowers or the sun or a random stranger who gives you an uplifting compliment when you need it.
Yeah.
And all of these things that happen that, you know, before you lost someone or before you lost something, you wouldn't have realized how significant they are.
Wouldn't have appreciated them.
Yeah. And it makes your life really beautiful in a really sad way.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. That's the interesting truth in this scenario. Is it makes your life. What was the phrase you just said? Happy in a sad way, or
it makes it really beautiful in a really sad way.
It makes your life beautiful in a sad way.
Yeah. I when I talk about my dad and I cry, it's like, it's not because I'm just sad. That's in there.
Yeah.
But I feel so much when I talk about him. And it's like, I feel so much that all I can do is cry, because like I miss him so much, but it's just so, like, the magnitude of it is like overwhelming, and that's why I cry. I cry because I'm feeling so many emotions at once. And it's just hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
I gotta think about my brother, my best friend in the world. And not thinking about that, sometimes in a quiet moment, and I reach for gratitude, or I feel numb, you know, as life sometimes makes you, because you get hit by the difficult stuff. And you don't feel like you're in tune with your heart, and you don't feel like you appreciate today. Nor have you looked at a flower in weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and you told that person in the store that said, "Hey, nice jeans," to fuck themselves. You know, and I think about like that feeling you're talking about. I can resonate with it. Like, yeah, you would lose that person. You'd lose that person in their form, and you wouldn't be able to hug them anymore or pop their back before they go to bed. You know? and you'd miss that.
Yeah.
But if, like, man, it's tough. Like, if you really sit with it for a minute, there's something else in there. You know, it's like this deepest truth. Like, the worst pain you felt of losing somebody you cared about or thinking about losing them is at the very core connected with the thing that makes you love them in the first place, and the thing that makes you love life in the first place. It's like being able to see that your deepest sadness is also, like, in some way the most peaceful acceptance. Like, they're there. Like, that's where you get your theirs, where you can really sit with a child and say, like, hey, yeah, you know, Daddy lost his friend too, you know, and I know how you're feeling, and don't close up. Don't close your heart in front of that. Let that pain open you, so that when you look at people, you almost have tears in your eyes, just because you're like, God fucking damn it. You know, we here.
It shifts the way it shifts the way you see yourself and other people. Like, I think every interaction I have now is more positive. Because when you think about it, like, if you lose somebody that you love and somebody that you care about, when you remember them, you remember the best parts about them. Like, if I was going to sit down and talk about my dad, I wouldn't talk about, you know,
that one time.
One time he got so mad at me. He, like, you know, told me to go fuck myself.
Sure, there's a police report about it, but I'm not. I'm not gonna bring it up.
I'm not gonna, you know, think about any fights we had and whatever. Like, when I think about my dad, I think about all of the best things about him, and that changes the way you start to see people. It's like, when you're gone, that's what people think about. They think about the positive things. And I guess because that's my focus so much when I think about him, is like, I've started to just see positively, you know, about other people and myself. Like, that's what I choose to focus on now. I know everybody has their stuff, you know, but and some people it's harder than others to
sure,
you know, shield that and try and see the positive. But overall, it really does change your outlook in general, and I'm a more positive person.
That is the beauty of this conversation. That's the point of this conversation. Because how you deal with the incoming season of your life, where you went from, and this happens at different ages. Some people, they're younger. Some people, they make it to 30, 35 before they really have an encounter with death. Whether that's the death of a loved one, or the death of a career, or a death of a dream. I hope that listening to this conversation, you can pay attention to what we're trying to share with you right now, which is, it is of utmost importance how you deal with those things that happen. It's the utmost importance how you, after the initial sting begins to settle, how you begin to treat that. Like, do you really treat your father's passing as a rich moment of, not saying it's opportunity, it's not like a positive spin on the death of my dad, you know, it's like, hey, it's actually the greatest thing that ever happened to me. My dad died. If I had another one, I'd kill him, you know, like, it's not where you're like, I love losing people, you know, but the yin and the yang, man, you sit down with it and you go like, all right, it is the way it is. Now, what is it? What is it? And maybe if I sit long enough, I can feel these rich feelings that, and that's what I'm trying to say is, like, what I'm hearing from Amy right now is growth. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a human being that has experienced pain and has decided that I'm going to keep my heart open in that pain, and I'm going to learn through it. And then you talk to Amy now, and, you know, she's always 2 steps away from crying about her dad because she loves her dad. But she's probably a few steps closer to you as a person, because she recognizes a degree in this moment, the fragile nature of our existence, that other people haven't. And that's the main part of this whole conversation, is that you have to be careful how you make sense of death. You have to be careful, because once you get to a certain age, once you get to where we're at, your personality is no longer just where you're headed. You know, like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make this. Now you're starting to like lug this thing around all the time, which is like what has happened to you. And half of your personality is going to be talking about those things and representing those things that have happened. And if you're boxing them up as being ways that you were fucked over and forlorn and you were done wrong by the passing of time, you're going to be a fucking miserable person.
And loss is like inevitable. That's going to happen to everybody at some point. And I almost feel like you said, and I would never say like I'm lucky, you know, but but given the cards that I was dealt in that situation, I do feel lucky that I decided to take this outlook from it. And that I got that at a younger age, because I feel like the rest of my life now is going to be a lot more beautiful, and I'm going to appreciate it a lot more. Even with like a giant hole.
Yeah.
So, but loss is inevitable, and it's either going to break you or it's going to change, you know, change your heart in a good way.
Break you or make you deeper. Like
let me say, it will break you.
Yeah, it'll break you.
It will break you, but like how you put yourself back together is the difference.
That's where when I hear you say lucky, that's what I think. No, I'm not lucky I lost my dad. I'm lucky I, for some reason, chose to move forward with this understanding and to find how life is always trying to teach me to become more in alignment with what's going on, with reality, which is the summer and the winter, and things come and they go. And, you know, like, I don't know the exact phrase, but when tough things happen, you either get thick skin or you grow stronger as a person. You either become more cynical and you put up more armor, you know. You reminded me of the other thing that you had moved past, which was a whole ass marriage.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason I even bring that up is because that's another portion of change, and change is always in some form a loss. And if you look back at that and go, I fucking tried relating to someone, I fucking tried being close to someone, and turns out they are this, like, can't we see how important it is the way we describe the events that have happened to us in our life? You know?
So, I don't even know how to say this. Like, okay, I credit this gym a lot for.
Is this an advertisement?
Go Fit State.
We're looking for trainers right now.
Yeah, there's gonna be a position open soon. Okay, hold on. I need to wipe my nose. Okay. But I'm glad that you brought up. I moved past a whole ass marriage. That is weird to think about. But I've done the most growth in the last 2 years of my life. And I've been alive almost 26 years. And in the last 2 years, I have changed and evolved so much. So I got married in 2018, and 3 weeks later, my dad passed. And that was really, really hard to navigate. And my marriage was not bad or anything. But when, like we've talked about, when you're growing up, you're handed all these things and you're juggling them, and some things are bound to fall out of your hands. And that is one that fell. And that was hard to navigate. And I started here right as that was finalizing. And then through here, I met some of the most
amazing people she's ever met in her entire life.
Thank you. That is exactly what I was going to say. But I think that I was experiencing a lot of loss and trying to figure out how to work through that, and I didn't know how to gracefully set down the things that fell out of my hand.
Yeah.
And that's one big thing that I regret about my divorce, is that I didn't handle that gracefully at all. And that's something I'm sorry for. But I'm really proud of where I'm at now, because I think I had to experience that.
How do you deal with the feelings? Not just you, because I feel them about past lovers and relationships that were meaningful and were rich and intense, and I think about her from time to time, and then I think about her from time to time, and it brings up so much. I'm curious to know what you do when you think about the past of relationships and a marriage that ended sooner than you thought.
Yeah.
And what do you make of that?
It's really cool. The analogy that you gave last week when we were talking about, about that. Growing up, you have all these things handed to you, and then you're juggling them, and some things are bound to fall. And when I think about my relationship and my previous marriage, and I'm really grateful for all of it. In the same exact way as I'm grateful for this experience that I've had here. I think everything had to happen that way. Everyone in my life had to come into my life for as long as they did. And in my first relationship, I didn't have like a lot of boyfriends in high school or anything. I had one, and then I married him. And I don't look back on that relationship in a negative way whatsoever. It's just, we were kids, and I'm really grateful for the experience, of growing up around a ton of friends that we had together and all of that. And it's not just that relationship, it goes for anything. And again, I think this is probably from losing my dad, is like, the people that come into your life come in and exit exactly when they are supposed to. And when things run its course, it's really, really hard to come to that conclusion. And from that experience of the divorce and how I handled it in a way that I'm not very proud of, I learned through that how I want to put things down from now on. Like, I feel and maybe everyone has to experience that too. Not a divorce, but everyone, although 50% of couples do.
Sign up now.
Everyone's going to experience that, the kind of shame you feel when you throw something away instead of gently set it down.
Yeah, that's when all the kicking and screaming of a kid comes out, when you're going, don't fucking take that from me. And it's just the Grim Reaper. It's like, it's life got God on one side and the Grim Reaper on the other, handing you things, and you get to hold them for X amount of time, and then the Grim Reaper grabs it slowly and pulls it out, and it's like an unbreakable force, and it's gonna leave, but you can either cling to it in your mind and you look back over the pictures and wish it never did, and you stay around, or you can gracefully let it go. But if you don't gracefully let it go, then you get into this, like, you get so angry that this is happening to you, being treated unfairly, and then you blame people for you're the reason I'm losing this whole relationship because you're the way you act towards me, yada yada. And there's not a lot of grace in
And then
that
when
response.
it calms down and you look back at it, you're like, oh, that's embarrassing.
And you're like, damn, that was gonna, oh shit,
Yeah.
that was gonna happen anyways.
Yeah.
Like that relationship was coming to an end. Like we, at our core, were not on the same path and we were leaving. And instead of like, one of my things my therapist says about relationships is bowing in and bowing out, like honoring going into the committed sacredness of a beautiful relationship. And when you see it to be ending, bowing out with a lot of honor, like you would at a temple, and say like, we try to ease the pain of the separation and the loss by blame, you know, and say like, I wasn't supposed to drop any of the balls I was handed. You fucking knocked it out of my hand, you know? No, that's how it goes.
Yeah. And I think what I wanted to say earlier is like, it's really cool how we talked about last week. You can take these chunks of time from your life. Now we're at an age now where you can literally take a chunk of time and look at what happened then. And so if I take the last 5 years of my life, what the fuck has happened? Like, oh my gosh. So, you know, and again, this is where your view of death and your view of losing someone can shape how you see the rest of your life. Because I could just look at it and say like, damn, I never thought I'd be where I'm at right now in a negative way.
Yeah.
But I never thought I'd be where I'm at right now. And that's really fucking cool because where am I going to be in the next 5 years? I don't know. And that's cool. But it all kind of started when I lost my dad. So, you know, he passed. And then shortly after, my relationship ended. And then shortly after that, I was here. And when I started here, that was like the start of a lot of beautiful things. This job, these people, Shane, the boys, and I've built such a better relationship with my mom. And so it started with loss, but it evolved, and it's really cool to take this chunk of time and see some things are going to continue from this chunk of time. Some things are just done. And there was a lot of endings, there was a lot of beginnings, but it's like the overlap of everything. It's like there's always going to be something coming to you. There's always going to be something leaving.
And if you don't learn to let go, if I don't learn to let go, then I don't appreciate the things that are now being handed to me.
Right.
I stay stuck in what was and mourning that loss, or trying to immortalize that thing. Not at mourning the loss. That would be probably healthy, you know. but pretending that it still exists, you know, highlighting rose color. Like for me, the thing is relationships. Like I look back on relationships with rose-colored glasses. I'm always looking for a way to not commit to the current relationship I'm in. And one method is looking back and saying, oh, it was so wonderful when I was with so-and-so. Although with just a little bit of investigation, you go, no, it wasn't. But I because of where I have been unwilling in my romantic relationships to learn this lesson of that, letting that thing go. And one thing that I realized the other day was that relationship doesn't exist anymore. And that was a weird thing. Like I realized, wait a second, like I've thought that my past relationships were just on, like those people were just on pause, waiting for me to return back to them and pick it back up where we left off, baby. You know, what's up? That is home, you know? Sorry I had to go do a couple things, but it doesn't. They're gone, you know, and whether they moved away or they're in other relationships or they have families, or it's like that. And that helped me to realize that like there's such a subtle hair to split where like you love that relationship, Brax. Like you love the richness of the memories you have with someone, and you love the depth that you guys shared, and like, yeah, you do. That's awesome. But it doesn't exist anymore. And now you're in this part of your life, and you don't have, like, that's been the hard part for me, is like appreciating. I'm learning that I thought that because I appreciated, because I loved, because I reminisced on the beautiful things about relationships, that it was me being unable to move on past them. And now I'm starting to feel like a sense of understanding what appreciation looks like.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Just appreciating.
I appreciate that relationship. And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't want to go back to that relationship. And that's not me trying to talk myself out of it. That's like, oh, actually, I'm learning better language of the way I interpret my emotions. This isn't not moving past someone. It is missing somebody. It's not wishing you were back. And something about that is really sweet. Something about that is really honest. And yeah, those are beautiful moments. Those are beautiful memories. And I cherish those. And I love those. But I'm noticing that I also needed to participate in seeing that right in front of me right now is the things I will cherish in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm missing them.
So this time of year is always really hard when you've lost somebody, the holidays in general. And I think it's because that absence is so much harder to look over. Like, it's just blaringly obvious that there's a hole, where there used to be somebody. But this year specifically has been the most emotional one for me. So this is the first year that his passing falls on actual Thanksgiving. So our whole family is going to be together. And his absence is going to be really obvious.
Yeah.
But it's going to be at my uncle's house, and it's on the water, and my dad loved the water. So I'm choosing to focus on that. And probably the most emotional part for me is that I'm bringing Shane and the boys with me this year, and Shane's parents, and it's going to be their first time meeting my whole family. And I desperately want to see my dad, interact with them, because I know that he would love them. And I've been thinking about that a lot, especially in the last week or so, with it getting closer and finalizing our Thanksgiving plans and schedule and whatever. And then on top of that, with transitioning and maybe looking for new jobs and stuff, I went to the Border Patrol station yesterday, which is where my dad worked. He worked for the Border Patrol for 28 years. And one of his coworkers, Kelly, I'm still in touch with her a lot, and I was asking her just about government jobs in general. And so I went by the station and I was talking to her for a little while about that, and we of course started talking about my dad, and they love him so much. Kelly still has a picture of my dad on her desk, and that was the first time I've been to the station since he retired in 2013. So anyway, we got to talking, and of course we cried, and she misses him, and they all miss him. So I was a little emotional when I left, and I went straight home, and Shane and the boys were watching TV, and I walked in and I said, hey, and I went right upstairs because I knew I was going to cry. And Shane came upstairs and he gave me a hug, and he talked to me for a second, and he went back downstairs, and I went next door. Our laundry room is upstairs, and I was like folding laundry just to give myself a second, and I could hear them like whispering downstairs. And then I heard Jace coming upstairs, and he poked his head around the corner, and he was like, Miss Amy, are you sad? And I said, I'm a little emotional. And he came up and gave me a hug. And he said, my dad told me you're sad. And I said, I'm emotional. And he gave me another hug, and he held me a little longer. And I was just like patting his back. And then I started crying. And when he was walking away, I said, thank you so much. It made me feel a lot better. And he turned around and he's like, it sounds like you're crying. But anyway, it was just like that moment where I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I miss my dad every day, and I will for the rest of my life. But I know that I have characteristics of my dad that I cherish, and those are the characteristics that I want to build on. And those are the characteristics that I see in the boys that I can build on with them. And just knowing that I have this family that he would love to see. And he does see, you know. I know he's with me, but something about that yesterday made me feel so much better. And again, not that I'm sad, I'm just very emotional about it. It's insane how you can harbor all of these feelings inside you at once. There's like this deep, deep sorrow and this like radiating pride when you look at them. And it's insane how the two of those things can coexist inside you. And that's why death is fucking beautiful in a really painful way. Yeah. So.
That moment of, was it Jace? Coming up and giving you a hug while you're feeling all of the richness of reflecting on your memories of your dad with his coworker and things. It's like getting a hug from your son while you're mourning your father. Jesus.
And it's like in those moments, like, that was my dad. Yeah. That's how I look at that. It's like, it was Jace, but I needed that moment, and my dad gave it to me.
Wow.
I really feel like that. So it's just about how you look at it and how you let it shape you, and the way that you carry yourself through the rest of your life, where this is going to keep happening. And you just have to decide what you're going to let that do to you.
I really, really pray for you during this week.
Thank you.
Really, because that beautiful moment, you helped create that moment by participating in your life without your father here. Some people don't get those healing moments that life has ready to hand you because the pain is so deep that they don't want to be aware of the moment right now. And that's why I say I pray for you, because I hope that just as your dad did, just as life did in that moment, send that little boy up the stairs to come hug a crying girl in the laundry room. I'm sure many more moments like that await you as you consciously are healing and accepting life. And I really do hope that you continue to be courageous with how you face this chapter of your life, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
You're a fucking rock star, you know? You have a bug on your arm.
I hate bugs.
Then that bug's like, my father was slapped by a giant.
Thanksgiving ruined. Oh,
what an amazing conversation. And thank you so much for being willing to let people, being willing to let people feel like they're listening to a real person talk.
Thank you for the free therapy, because I can't afford it right now.
If you or a loved one needs therapy, DM me.
Also,
you
if
can
you're
be on
hiring,
the podcast.
Also, if you're hiring,
We're going to finish this episode with a quick screenshot of Amy's resume. In the link below, you can download a copy. You're going to send it to your boss. She's
At the bottom, it says, P.S. My dad's dead. Go easy on me.
My dad just died like 4 years ago on this day. Damn. Awesome. Thanks for joining me, Amy.